Greetings, Gamer Nation. I'm Eliza Lambert. So you've played D&D, you've raided the haunted tombs of dead kings and seen the foreign stars of strange lands. What else does the world of tabletop RPGs have to offer you? Today, we're here to discuss Follow Me Down, a two-player RPG that doesn't have a DM. This game is based off of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, and I'm here today with the game's creator, Joey Martin. Hi, welcome to the show, Joey.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course, always ready to talk nerdy with someone else. So tell me about, what do the characters do in your game?
So it's a two-player game, which means that each player plays an archetype based on Orpheus or Eurydice. And the point of the game is to basically explore the underworld, trying to find each other, quote unquote. But it's more like you're developing your relationship as you go along while you're meeting these challenges and trying to find like your partner. So it's a lot of basically just like building your relationship while you're actually playing the game.
That's pretty cool. I like that idea. It's a unique concept. So if someone has, like myself, who's only played D&D before, what will we find familiar in the way that this game is played versus what will be different for us?
So you're going to be doing some of the same things you would do in D&D, like exploring an environment, interacting with NPCs, overcoming challenges, and you roll dice. It's a stat that you add to something else, which is pretty common in D&D. You know, you have your stats, you have your plus or minuses. So you're going to roll your dice, and it'll tell you how you're achieving these things that you're trying to do while traveling through Hades to find your partner.
Okay. So am I right in understanding that this is only two players RPG with no DM? How exactly does that work, especially like with who creates the NPCs and comes up with how they react to you if there's not a DM controlling it?
So effectively what you do is you and your partner end up kind of DMing for each other, but because the core book has all of the information in it, you can literally look like, I'm in this chapter, so I'm in this part of the underworld, and here's the encounters and NPCs I can interact with. Or if you're just feeling like really like creative, you can add your own touches to it and just insert things in that you think your partner would like.
That's pretty cool. I like that concept. So in your time over creating this game, what was one of your peak moments, whether when you were playing it or running it or creating the game itself? What was a peak moment for you?
So I did a lot of playtesting for this game. Like it's on Kickstarter now, but it was in playtesting for almost 3 years before I actually like completed it and put it up. And we had some amazing creativity during the playtests, because one of the things you can do is you do your own spin on Orpheus and Eurydice. So some people are like, yeah, let's go through the Greek underworld. And then other people are like, let's pretend that we're on, you know, the Death Star, and I'm trying to rescue you and your Princess Leia. Or like my favorite one, I think, was when I had two players who decided they were going to do like a Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell thing, where they were like, it was all like, you know, metal and like giant concerts and getting past the bouncer. And it was fantastic. I love the creativity of some of the players who have play tested this game.
That's really cool. Do you have any other unique stories about people who play tested this game? How long did that process take you?
So for the play testing, like I said, we'd been doing it on and off for about 3 years. And every time I go to a group to play test, I ask for their feedback and I incorporate some of it. And so if they're saying like, you know, this is more fun for me if I'm not doing more physical things here, but it's a more emotional thing, I'll add that in. If they say this particular power or stat doesn't work the way intended, I incorporate it. And then they started doing things like, you know, we're going through the underworld and one partner is like GMing for the other. And then they're like, let's take a moment and just remember our past relationship and like what we're fighting for. And I'm like, I'm taking that, I'm putting that in the game. That's a great idea.
I love that. So tell me more about the creative team behind the game.
Okay, so I am the writer and the designer. So I came up with the system. I came up with basically everything in the core book that you're going to go through. And then I have an editor. Her name is Misha Buschegger, and she is a fairly well-known, very skilled person in tabletop world. She's part of New Agenda Publishing. They released Orun, I think like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, which is a great like space opera game. She also has her own kind of thing that she does, which is called Black Girl Gameworks. So she was someone I'd known for a few years, but I also knew not just as a person, but as like a writer and an editor, like how skilled she was. And this is my first time to be able to work with her, which I'm really excited about. And then I also have our graphic designer who is Nana Love, and she did like a cover for a previous game I was on and like a bunch of other things in the past that she made for me. I know just because I've worked with her before, like how talented she is and how great she's receptive to like feedback or adapting to things. And I might just use her for all of my future games, honestly, because she's so easy to work with. But she's my main graphic designer, and she'll be doing like some art assets as well. But it's mostly like, making sure everything looks the way it's supposed to look. And then like for the Kickstarter, we've got people who are going to write additional play sets. We unlocked one of those today, which is like based on the Chinese afterlife. So instead of going through Hades, you're going through a version of the Chinese afterlife and coming in contact with various mythological creatures and things that are built out of that mythos. And then I have Chris Tang, who is the writer for that. And he's also someone I've worked with a long time. So like I've known him for over 10 years. And I've worked with him on like at least half a dozen projects now. So I'm really excited about it. We've got other things coming up with like other stretch writers, assuming we hit those stretch goals. So like we have one that's like based on Valhalla. We have one that's based on like going into the Celtic, I guess Tir na Nog, like.
Sorry, I love Celtic.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and I have different writers who I know are like really interested in these particular settings or have worked in them before, or are just like, the writer Josh Heath, who we have for the Valhalla, he's a Norse skald. So this is like right in his lane.
Yeah, that's so cool that you've got people that are so precise and so knowledgeable about their aspect. That's got to come together for a really great game. So you mentioned your main graphic design artist. I'm a huge proponent of supporting the artists and artist appreciation here. And the art in your game is stunning. Can you tell me some more about some of the other artists, or is it just your main graphic designer?
So right now I have got Nana and then 2 artists. I have another one under contract, but she hasn't signed it yet. So I don't want to like say she's on it, even if she, I'd like her to be, but we'll see.
She'll be there.
But the cover artist who has the really gorgeous picture of Orpheus and Eurydice like up at the top of the Kickstarter page, that's Sid Mills. And she's a very talented illustrator. She's done several other book covers for like gaming things. She's done things in like the fiction realm. So I had been a fan of her work before this, and I was like, I want this person because they make beautiful covers. I want them to make my covers. So fortunately she was available when I approached her, and what she came up with was way beyond what I even could have imagined. It's so beautiful. And then you like a couple of the other like pieces that are on the Kickstarter page, you could see like Eurydice like in the end quite knows, it's this very like moody kind of like desaturated picture of a woman like walking through a field of flowers. And that's by a French artist who, let's see if I can pronounce her name right, Irosha, I think is how that's pronounced, but I'm terrible at French. But she also does really beautiful work, and I'm definitely gonna have more pieces from her as well. And then Nana, of course, will do some of her own. And I also do artwork myself. I do like watercolor and pastels and a lot of digital collage.
Oh, that's cool. Did any of your art get used then? Do you use?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. So if you're on the Kickstarter page, you see like the little icons, like the pomegranate and the snake and stuff like that. That's all digital collage that I've done. So it's cool. Kind of other people's, but also kind of mine.
It's collaborative effort.
Exactly.
So in order to play your RPG, what exactly does someone need, and where would they be able to get it?
So it's pretty easy because the system that we use is called Powered by the Apocalypse. And it's very like, I don't want to say it's like a very easy system, but it's one that's very easily adaptable. And you basically roll 2d6 for everything. So you roll 2d6 plus this move that you're going to do. So all you need physically are like, you need 2d6 and you need the book. And that's just about it. Like the book literally walks you through the different, not rooms, realms in Hades. Like you start with Orpheus, like at the very beginning when you're trying to get in the gate with Cerberus, And then with Persephone, not Persephone, she's in there though. Persephone's in there. Eurydice, you start in the Unquiet Meadows, which is like the place with the wildflowers I was talking about that she's walking in. She kind of wakes up out of being like a shade, and you just go through the journey. So all you need really, if you want, is just the core book and 2d6, and then we'll have additional play sets, like I said, for like, you know, the Chinese afterlife and stuff like that, that people can adapt to their particular games if they want to do something different.
Do you need any more dice from a dice set if you'd play a different version, like the Chinese Afterlife one, or is it pretty much just the D6?
It's just 2d6. Yep. That's
nice.
It's the way Powered by the Apocalypse works is it's each playbook, which is the archetype of the character you're going to play, has things called moves, which is here's what you can do in the game. And then all you do is you roll 2d6 and you add or subtract the stat. Like, for example, we have one that's called philosophy. So if your philosophy is like a +1, then you add that to your roll, and then you look at the move and it tells you specifically, if you get this number to this number, this happens. If you get this number to this number, this happens. So it's really easy for people who haven't like had a lot of experience DMing, because it's very specific on this is what this does and here's how you can react to it.
Because I know that from my experience with D&D, building the character sheet with all of those stat numbers was always like the most stressful day of starting a campaign. Is it terribly difficult with yours, or is it a lot more straightforward then?
It's so building the stats themselves is really quick, like picking your moves, deciding what's your +or-1 stat, stuff like that. Very straightforward. The part that takes like the longest is there are questions on each archetype playbook that start out pretty easy. Like, you know, what is your character? What is the best feature? What does Orpheus love about Eurydice? Like, what's his favorite feature, for example? And then it gets like more and more complex as you go along. So like one of the ones for Eurydice toward the bottom is like, how did you die? Or how did Orpheus fail you?
Getting real thick into character backstory. That's part of my favorite thing of character building. Cool. Well, is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that you think would benefit someone to know about your game before playing it?
Honestly, you can come to this game with no experience gaming whatsoever and still be able to play it. It's very easy to pick up. And when I did playtesting, I didn't do like any of the, well, for the most part, didn't do any of the partnering. It was literally just two people who had never played this game before. I sat them down, I gave them the rules, and it worked out just fine. So I'm really glad that it's easy for people to pick up like that. But we're on Kickstarter right now. We funded last night, so we are ready to go. And now we're just adding additional play sets and playbooks. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to get to that level where I can like make the book super nice and have like a gold foil on the cover and like cloth bound and stuff like that. So
will we be able to get these books at pretty much any local gaming shop, you think?
I am hoping so. We're working with a distributor, so hopefully they will be able to get this into brick and mortar stores. But right now, with the world being the way it is, it's kind of like, we want to, we're trying to, but we need to really kind of work with what we've got.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to me about this game today. I'm definitely really intrigued and probably going to go out and go play it soon. It'll be a lot easier to coordinate playing with only one person instead of trying to get my whole free at the same time.
Yeah, it always makes it easier when you just have one other person to coordinate with.
Oh yeah, I can just like rope my roommate into playing it.
Okay, so if you want to like try it out now instead of waiting for the Kickstarter to fulfill, then we've got like, I'd say it's like 4 of the main chapters and the basic rules. They're up for free. You can get it on DriveThruRPG. You can get it on itch. You can get it on the Drowning Moon Studios website. And you can basically just play through a portion of the game and see whether you like it and see if it's something that appeals to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you got back. Totally. It's going to be cool to see it.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you too. So if you're interested in what we got lined up for our little channel, I'll be learning about Delta Green, the RPG of Cthulhu Conspiracy on October 12th. And then I'll be learning about the game of Spies and Vampires, Knights of Black Agents on October 17th. And Blue Rose, the RPG of Romantic Fantasy on the 24th. The show's producer and co-creator Ben Riggs has a book on RPG adventure design theory called Encounter Theory, available on drivethrurpg.com right now. Check the show notes if you're interested. Like what you hear, Gamer Nation? Email us at afterdndplay@gmail.com, or on Twitter, we are at afterdnd. Hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Tell a friend that we're here. And as always, I'm your guide to your next great geeky game, Eliza Lambert, signing off.